Hello everyone and welcome to the online 24 hours of Ateme. Welcome at home, in the office or wherever you are. Welcome to this outstanding full day event. It's great to have you here with us today. 24 hours of Ateme. This is not the only 24-hour race originated in France. I'm sure many of you will know the 24 hours of Le Mans, the famous long-distance car race, one of the most iconic events in motorsports. It takes place for almost 100 years now. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, there's not only the similarity in the name of the event, there's also a shared vision. Le Mans' intention was, and still is today, to prove the robustness, reliability, and state-of-the-art of the industry. Basically, bring the best teams in the industry together to show what they have in store. And that's pretty much of what we're going to do here in the next 24 hours. However, while Le Mans is showcasing what's available today, we're not stopping there. We're going beyond. We're going to look ahead into the future of content and media. By the way, my name is Andy Waltenspiel, and in my day job, I'm running a Munich-based consultancy working with thought leaders, game changers, and innovators of the telco and media industry to help them connect the dots. Today, I'm excited to be here as your host and moderator for the start of the 24 hours of Ateme. But before we go into details, let me call on stage the person who made all this possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Michel Artieres, CEO of Ateme. Michel, join me on stage. Start your camera and unmute yourself and join me here.
So thank you, Andy. Nice introduction. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending. So the second of its kind, 24 hours of Ateme. If you remember, 1 year ago, we were all hit by the pandemic. It changed our life, all stuck at home, had to somewhat reinvent how to interact with our business partners. Show had to go on. We discovered that we can live without an AB and IBC. We had to reinvent how to deliver even more content to the audiences for education, news, entertainment, while relying more and more on remote operations. So it's been quite a challenge for all of us. One of our responses was to create this 24 hours event, first time exactly 1 year ago. To share the latest technology update on our solutions in a compact and effective format. So again, today we'll have during 24 hours Ateme experts around the globe, as well as probably around 30 of our ecosystem partners will be sharing their science, their views on the latest technologies and the industry trends. So they will be covering all segments of the video flow from production to delivery under multiple angles, obviously technology and standardization, but also business related topic, consumer experience, and even the environmental impact of our solutions. I'm sure you have noticed that green is Ateme preferred color, so we are very engaged in that space. So I don't go into the details of this agenda. I will let Andy go through that in a minute. Just hope that you will find the content entertaining and informative. All sessions are interactive and we look forward to the discussions, and more than anything, we look forward to re-engaging more face-to-face anytime soon. Again, thank you for joining us today, and Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michel. Thank you for this great welcome. We're going to see you in a few seconds again for the opening keynote. But in the meantime, let me do some housekeeping and make sure you, audience, you get most out of this event. So a few words on how does it work. So first of all, this is, as Michel said, surely a one-of-a-kind event, apart from 24 hours of Le Mans. I don't know any other 24-hour, let's call it a show, not a webinar. So it's great to see such a high-profile audience from across the industry here. And likewise, you can also look forward to top-class speakers from leading companies like these. We'll have the BBC, AWS, Comcast Technology Solutions, Azure, Nagra, Dolby, and many, many more. So look forward to great talks from fantastic speakers. Now, as Michel said, this is supposed to be very interactive. So how does that work? So you can ask us questions at any time, and we will reserve 10, 15 minutes at the end of each session to answer those. So how do you do that? You see a Q&A button here in the middle of your Zoom window. Use that. Again, you can send them now, later, whenever you want. And at the end of each session, we'll try to answer as many as possible to get back to you. And I'm gonna ask the questions live to the questions or the following moderators. We will also have few polls throughout the event. They will just pop up in your Zoom window. Please participate, would be great. We want to hear from you, hear for your opinion, and of course, react to it during the sessions by the moderators and the speakers. Of course, by the way, all the sessions will be recorded. You can access them later on Ateme's YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube, find Ateme, and maybe subscribe to the channel so you get the updates as soon as they happen. Now, what can you expect in the coming 24 hours? There's 4 key topics that we're going to talk about. We'll have the video in the cloud, we'll have make streaming successful, next-gen TV, and new monetization workflows. All of the 24 stops or circles around the circuit will resolve around those 4 topics. So I won't go through the whole agenda of 24. You can find them in your invitation or online. So I think we're now ready to really start the engine with the first of our 24 sessions. So it's the opening keynote on the future of content and media. And in this keynote, we'll have, again, Michel Artieres. He is co-founder, president, and CEO of Ateme. We'll have Hanno Basse. He's the CTO for Azure for media and entertainment. And we'll have Bart Spriester, the VP and general manager, video platform for Comcast Technology Solutions. So I'm now looking forward to a great discussion with these 3 gentlemen. So ladies and gentlemen, the future of content and media, enjoy. And Bart, Hanno, and Michel, please turn on your cameras and join me here. And I need to wear my glasses, otherwise I can't see my notes. Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Hello.
Again.
Great. So great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Before we start, maybe a short round of introduction. Hanno, do you want to start? Introduce yourself and your company, please.
Sure, yeah. My name is Hanno Basse. I actually want to say it's kind of great to be back with Ateme. Michel and I have been friends for a very long time. We started working together when I was DirecTV. That's a long time ago now. I'm now the CTO for media and entertainment at Microsoft Azure. My role here is to help media companies around the globe, transfer their workloads, especially the content production and distribution workloads, onto our cloud infrastructure. It's actually an amazing role, and again, happy to be here. As I already kind of hinted, I come from the industry, so I joined Microsoft last year. Before then, I was the CTO at 20th Century Fox for a long time, and before then, like I said, I was at DirecTV, where I met Michel and Remy and Pierre and the great crew at Ateme. So great to be back here.
Thank you. Bart.
Yeah, I'm Bart Spriester, the general manager of the content and streaming provider business at Comcast. And what that does, or what we do, is we take Comcast technology that we invent and spend on internally, and we bring it to the outside world. So we focus on content provider customers and large operators internationally, and we power some of the help power some of the large media companies. So excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to a great discussion.
Great. And Michel.
As you said, I started Ateme back in '91, so that's what I did in my career. I have a background as a software engineer, and now the company is growing, and that's what I'm doing.
So 20 years of Ateme.
Almost 30 years of Ateme.
30, oh my God, yes, you're right. Cool, great. So the future of content and media. So let's do a little journey from where are we today to where do we want to go. But Paul, we need to look at least 1 year back, right? We're all living still in a crazy pandemic situation. So what are the big shifts you have seen? And maybe also tell us which of those do you think will stay? So maybe let's start with the cloud angle, because without cloud, we would have had huge problems. Hanno, what's your take?
So yeah, I think, I'm going to say some things that are probably obvious that, people have already heard numerous times, but, just also, coming from a cloud provider here directly. So what we've seen, obviously, with the pandemic is that a lot of things that were going to happen anyway are just happening a lot faster. Satya said at some point last year, things that he thought we were going to do in 2-3 years, we all of a sudden had to do in a couple of months. And I think that's really what we're seeing. Starting with, for example, our collaboration solution, Microsoft Teams, like Zoom, like everything else in that space, we've all seen huge growth rates there, obviously, but also cloud consumption in general. And I think also coming back to the point of accelerating things that we're expecting to happen anyway. If you look at the media business, if you look, for example, at content production, which is a lot of our focus today, that's already a global business. Like a movie like The Avengers, that's a global event, not just from a consumption standpoint, but actually from a production standpoint as well. There's crews and teams all over the globe basically working on this movie together, and so that is just predestined for cloud infrastructure. I think what we had seen in the past in this industry was that people were really hesitant to put pre-release content on the cloud because creatives in Hollywood here, they equate the cloud a lot with just the open internet, but I think in the last year people have figured out that it's not the same thing, that the content is secure, that it doesn't get lost. We know how to prevent unauthorized access and that sort of thing, and so really seeing that shift where people are getting comfortable working in the cloud. So we have we edit major movies on Azure today. We support visual effects workflows in Azure today, and on it goes. And so we've really seen that that acceleration in that shift. So just last thing I want to say on this is the Hollywood studios, for example, came up with this Movie Labs 2030 paper like 3 years ago. So which was about the journey to the cloud. And people thought it's going to take us over 10 years to get there. Now we think we should have actually called it the Movie Labs 2023 paper because things are just going so much faster. Okay. But that's the main theme, I think.
Thank you, Hanno. And by the way, thank you for getting up really early. It's 7 a.m. in LA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Good. Bart, what's your take? What are your takeaways of the last year?
Well, yeah, we all know that obviously the pandemic has been bad for humanity, right? Across the board, across the globe, everything. But it's actually been quite good for video. So, video consumption, as we all know, is up materially, 30-40% kind of numbers. We've seen that here at Comcast Technology Solutions. A couple things that have been going on behind the scenes, which is fascinating, is the loads have shifted materially. So if we remember, gosh, almost about a year ago, everything was going along, and then sports almost globally dropped out. And but still the episodic stuff, when people were at home, they were still streaming like crazy. So if you think of people that, like Hanno's team that, operate a network, or us that, operate networks too, the load shifts in traffic were just massive. No longer did we have big, Premier League spike events, but we had kind of more primetime hours that were quite heavy, or frankly, just daytime hours that were quite heavy. So there's a lot of behind the scenes, load shifts on the network. The other thing that's happened that's been, I would say, quite material, under the covers on the network and behind the scenes is, content production stopped for quite a long time. And in fact, it's slowly starting with a bunch of rules and regulations that the major, Hollywood kind of unions have put on, the Directors Union and the Screen Actors Guild Union on COVID. So it's still kind of slow. But what that means behind the scenes is, companies that offer streaming services or any MVPD services, they still had to monetize content because, there was a massive demand for this content. We said 30–40% increase in all this viewership of video because people were sitting at home. So what happened? Rights windows got extended. Content had to be transcoded into a different format for a different device or a different type of platform. So, companies like us or platforms like Hanno's were working, I would say, overtime, with some of the Ateme technology to just repurpose, rejig all this type of content and frankly, pull back in our libraries to just feed all these services and the consumption of the consumer for all this content, especially when there was no content being created for, many, many months. So, I mean, there was a lot going on behind the scenes, even though, you might just, click the button at home and you just see some new movies. There was a massive amount of shifts. And that only is on the, main assets of video and audio, but the metadata manipulation that was occurring to support all this was a Herculean effort. So anyway, a lot going on behind the scene to handle this kind of pandemic on the video side for the past year.
Okay, thank you very much, Bart. And Michel, how have you experienced that at Ateme? It seems like you've been very, very busy.
Quite. Well, in fact, what we have seen is that the impact of the pandemic on our industry, there's been positive and negative aspects. Obviously, the positive aspect, as Bart just said, is there's been obviously more video consumption. People have been spending more time, more viewing hours at home for news, for entertainment, even though there were less sports. Probably SVOD, AVOD services have been very successful in this period. There was a very successful launch of Disney Plus in Europe at that time. People are having more and more subscriptions, more diversity, multiple subscriptions. Some studies claim that today the average in the US is 2 subscriptions per household, where the average is still around 1 in Europe. But there's obviously a potential to grow to 4, 5, 8. I've read also 8, potentially 8 subscriptions in the US, which is the most advanced country from this KPI perspective, including sports, because of the diversity of the contents. So that's the positive thing. More video consumption. That's good for our industry and for all of us. The negative thing is that the pandemic has a dramatic negative impact on the ads revenues, which is half of the funding of our industry overall. The funding is through subscriptions and revenues and ads. And obviously, some of the industries that were very directly impacted by the pandemic, so automotive or travel or this kind of businesses, have been spending less. So the consequence is, in terms of the behavior that we see globally across our customer base, is that everyone has realized that, as I said in my introduction, our clients first had to start operating remotely, or being more agile in operating remotely, and are looking for more resilience in their operations. And that is probably what is, as just Hanno said, what has been accelerating the move, the transition to multi-cloud, hybrid cloud solutions. In terms of the business, yes, as we have read a few studies recently. Probably the impact in terms of the annual spend of our industry in the technology has been probably minus 10% last year. We don't know clearly yet whether the recovery is for this year or next year. The sooner the better. But yes, this has had an impact, but we managed to go through that.
Great, thank you. So a lot of increase of speed, increase of volume, increase of work, just not for the ads. You mentioned something, Michel, multi-cloud. I mean, and Hanno, you're in the middle of that. I mean, is it good enough to have one cloud? Do I, as an operator, do I need 1, 2, 3 omni clouds? So is that a trend? Where are we going with that?
I think at the end of the day, it remains to be seen. You know, it depends on what all the big players here want to do. I would just say one thing, which is what we're trying to do from our point of view is create a cloud platform that you know, is as open as possible. So we're working with the industry on standardizing certain aspects of our cloud surface to basically make it really easy for partners such as Ateme, for example, to plug into our cloud and participate in the workflow. And so we're working with numerous industry organizations, SMPTE, EBU, Movie Labs, the Academy Software Foundation, and others on figuring out, okay, what does production in the cloud actually and distribution in the cloud actually look like, and what industry standards do we need for really for all these apps to run in the cloud. What we want is, the world that we want to get to at the end of the day is kind of twofold. Number one, we want our customers to keep using the same tools that they're using today. So for example, if they're using the Titan encoder from Ateme today, in the future, it should actually look and feel the same. The performance should be the same, if not even better. But and so on and so forth. Also on more on the creative side, same thing. They will still use, you know, for example, Avid Media Composer, which, you know, a partnership that we have with them, and it's going to look and feel the same. I think the difference of doing stuff in the cloud is that, you know, as an individual company, you don't have to spend that much time and energy on the basic infrastructure stuff. You know, where is my data? Is it secure? Am I going to lose it if there's a, you know, if there's a problem somewhere? How do I, you know, control access to it? And all these other, you know, kind of data hygiene, you know, data management kind of things. And then also in terms of, is my infrastructure becoming obsolete? You know, do I need to invest here? And what's my amortization cycle and all that? All these things go away when you put stuff on the cloud. And so, but the point is, we need to make it really easy for these third-party apps to come onto Azure, and that's what we're trying to do by creating these industry standards. And then obviously it's up to everybody else to, you know, participate here or not. And obviously I can't speak for everybody else, but that's kind of our fundamental approach here.
Okay, thank you. Michel, since you brought it up, I guess your customers want all sorts of clouds. How does it impact you? And have you seen this a growing trend?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been growing for years. In the past, as Hanno said earlier, there was some reluctance due to concerns about potentially the cost of the cloud for access, ingress, egress, and for the CPU cost, and concerns about security, and which is still, I mean, a critical matter. In the COVID context, the threats are up. We see that all the time. So that's still a concern. But the fact is that now it's really broadly accepted and very systematically considered by our customers. Though we are not there yet. I predict good days for Hanno and Azure, because the fact is that most of the operations today that are running are still on-prem. I think there is still a huge transition to happen in the coming years.
Yeah, I meant specifically also the multi-cloud. So do you, some of your customer requesting you to be in Azure, Amazon, Google, whatever? Is that something you see?
Not really. What we see is that most of our customers have their opinion of their preferred cloud vendor. So we have to partner with all the major cloud vendors, and we do. So that we can just match the strategy of our customers. I think it's a bit different. The hybrid cloud approach is really about, or used to be really about simply offloading peaks. Multi-cloud is really a public cloud strategy, and probably is due to the strategy of our customers for, I don't know if it's a procurement strategy or operation strategy, but is really to split the business between different suppliers to just spread the operations across the different vendors. But probably Bart can talk better, more than me about this topic.
How do you see it?
Yeah, our philosophy on multi-cloud is maybe a little bit different. We want to take advantage of the cloud providers' higher order services. So, and the reason we want to do that is because it allows us to develop our technology faster. And so we're not just looking for some basic compute and some storage to sit out, somewhere and to use. So what we do is we try to, I would say, pin an application to a specific cloud like AWS or to our good friends Hanno here and Azure and others. And what we'll say is, okay, this application will run here. Let's do everything we can to use all the higher order services in that cloud and take advantage of all their advantages of that cloud to give our end customer all the speed and efficiencies that we can. And then we'll use this cloud for that, which they're exceptionally good at. And that, I think early on in the, public cloud journey of companies, the procurement office or the procurement people say, gee, let's play both of them off each other because the price is high and we'll lower the price. And I think that's generally the wrong philosophy, because you're doing this for flexibility and scale and speed, which is what the main, I would say, advantage of going to a public cloud infrastructure is. And I will say that, yes, security is a big issue, of course, but it used to be, and I'm quite happy about this, maybe 5 years ago, or gosh, even more, where people would say public cloud, and then almost instantly you would hear back security, public cloud, security problems. And that largely has gone away. There are, several pockets or people that still have issues with it, but for the most part, most technology people understand that clouds are, very, very secure environments. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we talked about the past, we talked about the present. Let's talk about the future. One way I always like to ask that question, instead of saying, tell me what's coming, said, I give you $100 million. What do you do with it? And maybe Bart, since you're smiling the broadest, what would you do with with $100 million?
Well,
and no bikes and boats and
yeah, right. Yeah, that's the first thing that always goes through your mind is retirement and some island. I think if you look at our industry problems, our industry's actually come a long way. And we've done a lot of great things. And one of the things that I reflect back on is it wasn't that long ago where we were still talking about the conversion to IP. And if we didn't convert to IP, or start the journey, I don't even know 10, 15 years ago, we could not have handled this pandemic the way we've handled it. Because largely the media industry, and there's several aspects to it, everything from the IP connection to the homes, to how we process media, to our public cloud infrastructure, to everything is converted to IP. So we were able to handle and digest most of this. But if I had $100 million, the big problem I would think we would need to solve, and we probably wouldn't even need the full 100 million, is we still have to tackle metadata. Metadata is the, intelligence aspect of all our video and audio kind of globally. And frankly, we don't have a great standard there. If we ever could do that and figure out a way to system or process or set of tools to really take advantage of all that's there. And AI and ML and some of their discovery stuff is certainly helping. I think that would enrich the end customer experience massively. And it will allow us to, almost do what we do with text, which is, can search the internet and find almost anything if it's text-based. Well, if we could get there on the video and audio domain and the media domain, then I think that would uncap kind of our market, our market space and just shoot us up. So I would go after big, hairy metadata problems.
Sounds good. Okay, Hanno, and you, what would you do?
So I would take the $100 million and invest them in innovation projects. And I think the most interesting one right now is, I think, the future of content production in general, and obviously all the ripple effects that also has all the way through to delivery of this content to the consumer. So for example, and there's many examples here. One would be, in the future, going forward, how will sporting events get captured actually? And it's video and audio, but it's probably also all kinds of other metadata around the event. Because one of the things I envision happening is that, and it's something that we're working with the NBA on. It's a partnership we announced last year. Is really, if you can't come to the arena, how do you? And we're seeing this obviously with sporting events right now during the pandemic as well. If you can't come to the event venue, if you can't come to the arena, you can't go to the Olympics in Tokyo if they do happen this year. How do you actually bring kind of this on-site experience back into somebody's living room? Mm-hmm. And I think there's still a huge goal to be mined in terms of immersive entertainment, volumetric capture, the convergence of the digital and the physical world. Microsoft's working a lot on digital twins, for example. How is that going to be used in entertainment? And also, again, what does that mean for this content to be rendered at somebody's home? We actually believe that in that particular case, that more and more of this rendering load or display load, if you will, also migrates, if not directly into the center of the cloud, but probably to the edge of the cloud, but out of people's homes, because pretty soon we can envision these entertainment offerings to just require too much horsepower to actually be driven by somebody's home computer, let alone a gaming console or something like that. So that's kind of what I would invest in, is how you create this content, and then also how you take it through the supply chain and deliver it to a consumer. And it covers everything. Capture devices, cameras. You could imagine, not just having one or two or five cameras, but hundreds and thousands of cameras capturing stuff, and you build a 3D model out of that. How do you bring that then to the consumer? What's the display device over there, and how do you generate all the metadata, all the enrichment that requires to really create a wholesome experience in the consumer? And I think that's what I would invest in.
Sounds good. And Michel, on your side.
Same here. I think we would invest on innovation, keep investing on standardization, industry standards, collaboration, open standards, maybe even open source initiatives, and probably also push for a transition to greener technologies. I think what I mean here is I'm not really referring to Ateme direct impact. That's relatively minor. I'm talking about how we help our clients going green with the solutions we are deploying. What we collectively do is great, contributing to giving millions of viewers access to information, education, entertainment. That's a great mission. So we want to keep doing that. My green pitch is not about being back to the Stone Age or back to SD content. We want to deliver 4K, we want to deliver personalized TV, we want to deliver 5G broadcast and immersive experience. But if we can do all that while taking care of the planet, then we can probably be even more proud of what we are accomplishing. So that's where really we would like to go.
Absolutely, and I see more and more big telcos or companies around the globe saying, okay, even in the procurement, it's what are you doing for green? For not for your logo color, but what are you in terms of corporate social responsibility, avoid children labor, have clean products in your hardware. I think it's maybe interesting to hear also from Hanno and Bart. What are you doing there? What are the big things you're driving, and what the requests you get from your customers?
Yeah, I can go first. Not really very well prepared for this question, but because I don't remember exactly the dates, but Microsoft already has put it in. You guys can look it up on the internet afterwards, but we already have put a date out at which point in time Microsoft is going to be carbon neutral. I just don't remember exactly what that date is. But I think in general, and this starts with our CEO Satya Nadella, and he's very vocal about it. We want to do the right thing. We want to exist for the benefit of humanity and the planet. And so we're actually doing a lot of things today to help the planet to become or the economy to become carbon neutral, or humanity's imprint on the planet to become carbon neutral. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And I think actually energy efficiency is something that I think only cloud infrastructure at the end of the day can really provide, because we can provide the scale, we can provide the power saving solutions, the climate neutral solutions that individual households or smaller companies just cannot provide. And I think that's actually one of the key things that the company is working on is to do just that. We're moving to a sharing economy anyway in a lot of ways. Obviously, that's been a little bit on hold because of the pandemic, but I think that is good. That's actually one of the things you asked earlier, what's going to resume. Clearly, that's something that's going to resume. Car sharing is going to be bigger. And all kinds of other infrastructure elements that we use every day will become more and more shareable. And I think compute infrastructure is a key piece there, which is actually going to help, I think, reduce the climate impact that humanity has on the planet. So clearly one of the key things that Microsoft is focused on. Sounds like a good plan. And Bart?
Yeah, our company has done a ton, probably similar to Microsoft. In fact, on our corporate website, it is many pages long, all the stuff that we're working towards the greener planet. But some of the bigger ones are even just like power consumption savings on our set tops and setting the set tops into idle mode. And it's something that probably Hanno knows a lot about just from his time at DirecTV and different things. But we spend a lot of time working on optimization of that type of thing, as well as just reducing our fleet of trucks and doing different things that we can to reduce emissions on all those under the carbon footprint. So it's a pretty massive push from the top of our company for sure.
Okay. One thing I thought about, when we do all this, we have video going through the roof, sports will come back, we'll have multi-angle cameras, more data. Do you think we will ever have enough bandwidth, or will we always fill the pipes? Or will we at one moment have, okay, right now it's difficult to go all unicast in all the networks on the planet. So there's stuff like multicast ABR. But will we reach that point where we have abundance of bandwidth available? What do you think?
Well, maybe I'll take that one. Does anyone want to bet against history? Right?
I don't.
Yeah, I won't. So yeah, I say no.
Okay.
I
Hanno?
mean,
Yeah.
go ahead, Hanno.
No, go finish, Bart. Sorry.
No, I mean, look, there's always stuff. We fill the pipe, and I mean, society fills the pipe, and consumers want more and more. I mean, it's about the delivery to the home, and especially now with the pandemic, with people working at home, I mean, we all fill our pipes in material ways, and I think, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just leave it there. There's nothing more really to say. It's I'm not going to bet against history.
Yeah. I think there's like two major things I think that drive the hunger for, actually maybe more than two things that drive the hunger for more and more bandwidth. And as Michel knows very well, when I was at DirecTV, I was in the bandwidth business. I mean, I was constantly trying to figure out how to cram more things into at high quality into existing pipes, and we launched more satellites to get more bandwidth, and like that they were full. So clearly agree with Bart, that you don't want to bet against history. And also, I think there's more trends now, and you guys all live this also, and it's actually good for a company like Ateme that this trend's happening, is this fragmentation in the audience, right? If you look at, how much, video content was available, let's say 10, 15 years ago, and what's available now, it's orders of magnitude higher. And we're going to keep seeing that fragmentation more and more, which means, any content offering has to be more and more tailored to the individual. And then also the other thing is that, content that obviously is being consumed everywhere, not just in the home as it used to be, but literally anywhere. And I think 5G is just going to accelerate that too. So people will expect, there be no difference in terms of the quality of the experience that's provided, whether you're in your home or whether you're not in your home.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so that again drives, the need for more bandwidth. And then also, like Bart said, I mean, the fact that the bandwidth is available, people will figure out how to use it. You just create a constantly richer and richer experience. And I think that's true with 5G. I think we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet when it comes to, immersive experiences, whether they are actually, advertisements, or whether they are some other entertainment experience or some educational experience or some travel experience, whatever, it doesn't matter. We haven't even started to scratch the surface of that kind of stuff, which also is all going to require bandwidth. So I think there's two factors I think that limit it at the end of the day. There's only so much spectrum. Laws of physics sooner or later, and Shannon's theorem sooner or later is going to kick into play. And also, there's only 24 hours in a day. So and people can typically only do one or two things at a time, and not 20 things at a time. So those things will kind of limit that. But then it's again up to the smart engineers at companies like Ateme to figure out how to be even more efficient with the existing bandwidth that's out there.
Yeah.
Right. Good. So we talked a lot about technology. Let's look at how to get this done in your organization, because often it's not the challenge in the technology itself. I mean, we'll find bright engineers who can deploy it. The larger challenge is often in the mindset transformation and transforming your organization to get there. All right, saying we go cloud sounds easy, but maybe it's not, or surely it's not. So what are the tips you can give to our audience? What do you need to do to make this really a success? The digital transformation or transformation to the cloud. Bart, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I always tell the joke that, I said earlier, we've come a long way. And 10, 15 years ago, converting to IP in many aspects, not maybe 100% of all parts of the industry. I also joke, which is in fact quite true, is that you could always tell the background of a particular engineer, because when you had some sort of outage or network event, if the engineer was trained as a broadcast engineer, they would run frantically to the machine room to look at the gear. And if they were trained as an IT or IP engineer, they would run frantically to a terminal to log in. And now, in large part, that divide, and they were oil and water, as we all know, in large part, that divide is almost gone. And that was a big organizational challenge for many groups. In fact, organizations that I ran, and probably even Hanno when he was in his different groups. But that is largely gone now. And of course, the IP folks had to pick up video skills, or the video engineers had to pick up the IP skills, and that has helped materially. And I think that once you got the organization into the IP domain, whether it's on-prem or public cloud, okay, it's not one or the other, or it's not the same, because there are definitely different things about it, but it's quite easy to extrapolate and extend into public cloud environments. So I think, at least from my point of view, we're over the hard part. And I think we, this pandemic, like Hanno said earlier, pulled in, plans 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, and pulled us in quite fast. And I think we're over a lot of that organizational hump, at least inside Comcast Technology Solutions.
Okay, that sounds great. Hanno, how is it at Azure?
So I think what we see a lot with our customers is that they go kind of through stages. In the beginning, for example, they primarily use the cloud for, bursty workloads. So they run out of on-prem capacity, so they offload some of that load into Azure, or obviously the other clouds see the same thing. And so and that's where it typically starts. But then they figure out they want to reduce their on-prem footprint, to address all these issues that I talked about earlier, obsolescence, having to manage the infrastructure or the server farm and what have you. And then there's like this tendency to just lift and shift the stuff that's on-prem and put it in the cloud. And that obviously goes only so far, because typically you don't save a lot of money doing that. And in the contrary, in a lot of cases, it actually costs you more to do that for all kinds of reasons. And so really the difficult part of migrating, to the cloud is actually that it forces you, in order for it to actually make sense, it kind of forces you to rethink and transform your entire structure. How your applications are written, how they actually interact with each other, what your flow looks like, what do you do when, and in what frequency, and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of thought that has to go into how you actually architect your environment in the cloud versus you doing it on-prem. And by the way, also that has direct impact on your operational overhead in terms of management, but also cost. And that's something I think that a lot of times our customers kind of underestimate, and we spend a lot of time working with them on, okay, here's what your existing pipeline, for example, for production looks like. Here's how we need to transform it for it to really make sense and help you get the benefits of the cloud. But then Bart earlier talked about, value-added services that cloud providers, offer, all types of AI and machine learning algorithms, the automation tools that we provide, the data management tools that we provide. And that's another thing that, that we spend a lot of time on training people as to what that actually means, how you use that, and how you use those, and how you, become more efficient. And the last thing I'm going to say is when we're going through this right now, it's always the same with a transformation like this, is you can't do it like that overnight. You start with one area, and then you add another one, and while you're going through this transformation, it's a little bit uneven. It's not necessarily super efficient or cost effective to do that, and you really only get to the efficient, cost effective world when you're done when you have it all there or mostly there. And that's I think also part of the struggle that our customers then see. So the engineers, for example, that we're talking to, they totally understand what they want to do and they're working towards it and they're fully committed to do it. But then they sometimes have a hard time explaining that to their finance department, and so those are the challenges I think that we're working to overcome with our partners and customers. But at the same time, I think it, like Bart already said, I think it's more and more clear to everybody what the benefits of migrating to the clouds are and the cloud are and what you need to do to get there. I think that's becoming more clear, and I think the world's going to look very different 5 years from now.
Yeah, Hanno, I think you're right. If you lift and shift, you're in trouble. That's bad.
Yeah, it's bad, yeah.
Good. So we know where to go. It's getting more clear. Still not easy. Still not a walk in the park, if I hear you, Hanno. Mike, Michel, anything to add from your side on that? How difficult to transform?
About managing the transformation of the company. So Ateme is a tech vendor, so I think we have to be capable of achieving that. We are still maybe no longer a startup, say a young company, though the company has been started 30 years back, but the recent history started really when we repositioned the company back in 2009 when we launched the Titan software brand for the video and the software applications. So that's really a 10-year story. I mean, how do we do that? So we are growing fast. So the pace, just to give a ratio, typically we increase our headcount organically by 20% every year in the past few years. So you have to adapt, and the organization chart is something that is just moving all the time. So it's really a lot about sharing the vision and onboarding the people on the transformation. And really a strong focus, as Hanno said, on training. We have, for a company of our size, I think we have a tremendous organization in charge of training the people, because we have sales engineers and project engineers globally. We have presence in 20 countries, so some limited presence in some countries. So when people are remote, you have to make sure that this organization is effectively trained. So we have the technical trainings, we have our own technical training platform for the remote teams. We have internal coaching development program for soft skills, leadership, design thinking, all that kind of stuff, just to grow the people and to learn and live this transformation. So, well, change is always an opportunity.
Great. So thank you. So let's use the last couple of minutes for some questions from the audience. Sure. So I'll read them to you. I think if you hit the Q&A button in your dear speakers, you see them as well. So there's one from August. So question is, in your opinion, what is the well-suited cloud platform or built for media processes and systems available today for robust remote content production? And how can it be managed efficiently? Cloud question. The answer is Azure, right, Hanno?
Absolutely. You kidding me?
No. So
I mean, I would just say, obviously, we do think we're the best cloud there mankind has ever seen. But all kidding aside, we are actually supporting a lot of remote production, workloads today. So we can talk about more, what that looks like today and what we're moving towards. But like I said in the beginning, we've seen a lot of demand, especially since the pandemic started, and we are, meeting that demand. So yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff there.
Okay. So maybe add-on question to this from an anonymous attendee. Is there going to be, or is there a need for a cloud that is dedicated to media and entertainment? Is that a strategy? You do dedicated cloud infrastructure for one vertical and you do different for medical and hospitality? How does it work?
That's actually a really interesting question. So I'm not just the CTO for media and entertainment in Azure. I actually run the M&E vertical. And we're paired up actually with a number of other verticals in the same group, but they are very diverse. There's things like energy, retail, financial services, agriculture and food, and so on and so forth. And what's interesting there is that our fundamental approach to servicing our customers is actually very similar. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to get to is, and we have most of the pieces actually already available today, is what does your fundamental technology stack look like to support all these different workloads? And I would say 90% of that is actually the same across all these different verticals. And what me and my team are doing is we put the last 10% at the top to basically support what we call domain-specific workloads. So how specifically do you support editing? How specifically do you support video encoding and packaging? How do you support the security aspects of it? Michel mentioned ingress and egress earlier. So those are the types of things that are kind of, but even ingress and egress, there are parts of it that are media specific, but there's a lot of underlying things that are exactly the same. So for example, people don't know this, but we actually run one of the largest CDNs in the world for things like Windows Update, right? And so we know how to get buckets of data to people in general. There's a few things that we still need to do to really also optimize that CDN for media applications. So I guess my point is we're 90% there with just just the generic offerings that Microsoft does. And we're actually constantly looking for these synergies between the different industry verticals to push that even further. Because I think at the end of the day, that does two things. It saves us and therefore our customers a lot of money if we can find these synergies, and also makes a more robust offering, right? Because we don't have to develop all these bespoke solutions. We can basically rest on the shoulders of a very broad engineering team developing this for everybody. So
makes a lot of sense. I think we have time for one more question from Stefan Goebel. First of all, here, merci Ateme and Michel for a great start. So
welcome, Stefan.
All three of you. So question is, isn't this positive and rapid cloud development contributing to a digital divide between, let's say, the developed and not so much developed countries? Also, if you read a book, Factfulness, who said there's no two divides, it's multiples. But are we contributing to a greater separation between the very developed and very little developed countries by this cloud approach? What do you think?
I don't know, Hanno, if you want to take that, but I mean, I think I will tell you, this is a better way, public cloud infrastructure is a better way for us to serve many of those countries that currently don't have strong internal country data center infrastructure. That would be my take, because frankly, that's what we use to serve many of those places.
Yeah. Yeah, and from our end, number one, I think we're constantly increasing our global presence. As far as I understand, Azure is actually the one with the broadest footprint around the globe. So we're in more regions and more diverse regions also than anybody else. And it's kind of what Bart just said, that we have customers that sit in regions where we actually don't have a data center close by, but because we're globally accessible, you can still figure out how to connect to Azure and do workloads there. And we actually see this even, for example, we do have, let's say, a presence in several data centers in India. We have them in Europe. We have them in Asia. Overall, we have them in North America, South America, in Africa, especially in South Africa. But we're seeing that even where data centers are located, that still people don't necessarily connect to the one that's closest to them. They connect to the one that makes the most sense to them, because we're not necessarily always equally distributed in terms of what we call the SKUs that are available. So the types of servers, the types of storage, certain applications need certain types of GPUs, for example, they're not necessarily equally distributed around the globe in all of our data centers. And so you connect to the one that has the specific infrastructure that you need. So in a lot of ways, unless you have a very latency sensitive workload, you just basically connect to whatever makes sense, and you can connect to that from basically anywhere. I think the bigger issue in this inequality has really to do with access, right? You know, like even in places like India, we have a local presence there, multiple data centers, so that's not the issue. The issue is bandwidth, access bandwidth, and I think that's a bigger concern. But there's obviously a number of initiatives that we're doing there. So, for example, we have this Azure Orbital initiative now with the SES and with SpaceX to basically provide you know, space-based you know, access to Azure, and that works from anywhere. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. That's going to help overcome that access issue.
I would also think that it will allow us to close the gap rather than if everything was on-prem.
Yeah.
Right.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time. We actually are over already by a minute. Thank you very much. It was a great discussion. I feel we could continue another half an hour, but we have 23 hours to continue this race. So we finished our lap. Thank you very much, Bart, Hanno, and Michel, and the audience for listening and asking questions. I say goodbye here. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure.